There is betrayal, lies, secret. You can't trust anyone. Loyalty. What loyalty? It have no loyalty, honey. There is none. Hi wonderful people, and welcome back to my channel Book Cribs with Giselle. How are you going? What's up? What's the scene? Today we're going to talk about my May TBR because I have some really exciting books that I want to read. And let me just tell you, these books have been all over Instagram. Like, as soon as I go on my Instagram, I tend to get like a lot of like new releases from new authors. I do follow authors. They always tend to post their new releases or their re-release or their cover, and they just keep you so hyped into their books, and you tend to just like follow them because you just want to know what they're going to come out with next, what they're going to release next. Is it going to be a contemporary romance? Is it going to be a mafia romance? They just keep you absorbed, and they keep you wanting more. They keep you at the edge of your seat. And this list is basically books that I have been seeing a lot on my news feed on Bookstagram. So I'm like, Giselle, you just need to read it. You just need to read it, and that is what I'm going to do this month. This is what we're going to do in May. So let's get into this video. First up, I'm just going to say, I swear that I have seen this book every single day on Bookstagram. This book won the Goodreads Choice Award for the best romance book of 2020. So I'm sure it's not any surprise to anyone. And it is Jennifer Armentrout Blood and Ash series. So I'm going to read book one. And if I like book one, then I'm going to go on to the other two books in the series. But let me just say right now, this book is 634 pages long. Your girl has never read, I have never read any book that long in my life. I think I've read maybe 400 to 500, never crossed 6. So, but I'm up for the challenge. This book, or Blood and Ash, follows Poppy and Hawk, and basically Poppy was chosen from birth to usher in a new era in this kingdom, right? It is a fantasy paranormal book, and Poppy lives a life of solitary in that she's never to be touched, she's never to be spoken to, she's never to experience pleasure, and she's never to be looked upon. Like, what kind of life Poppy living, right? And in comes Hawk. Hawk is basically a god. He's there to ensure her ascension, and therefore he's there to make sure nobody does these things. However, duty and destiny becomes mingled with desire and need. So will Poppy remain untouched? Will she never experience pleasures of life? I am so interested to read this book. I'm hoping that it lives up to the hype, because this book has me so interested, because certain things are forbidden for Poppy, and the question is, will they continue to be forbidden, or will she be too tempted? Will she be tempted into experiencing things? That is why your girl is hooked on reading this book. So I'm so excited that I saw that on my Instagram news feed. So if you have read this book though, let me know in the comment section down below, what were your thoughts on this book? And if you haven't read it, why haven't you read it yet? Are you just waiting to get some reviews on it? Like, I'm so excited to read this, and seeing that it's a paranormal fantasy book, I am sure that there's going to be action. I am sure there's going to be adventure. I'm sure there's going to be so much twist, and this plot is going to have depth. I'm sure it's going to have some type of intricate plot, and we will see. So you let me know in the comment section down below, what were your thoughts if you read it, and if you have not read it, why haven't you yet? For me, I don't know why I haven't read it, but I'm going to do it now because it made it to my TBR list. And as you know, if you have been following me, I tend to read books that I post on my TBR because I feel obligated to my subscribers. If I say I'm going to read something, then I need to read it, and I need to let you know what I thought about it when I read it. So let's go on to the next book. I'm sure you know by now that I like to read dark romances. No surprise. No surprise that I like to read dark romances. I think they're just like more entertaining, they're just more exciting. I think the plot is more in depth, there are more twists, there are more turns, and there's always something taboo, there's always something forbidden about it. So I love it. Not going to stop reading it for anyone. I want to read In Peace Lies Havoc and Sicko by Amo Jones. Like, tell me what you think about these two books. In Peace Lies Havoc and Sicko. When I saw these two books, honestly, I saw In Peace Lies Havoc first, and I went up and I was trying to read the synopsis, and I'm like, well, what really happening here? I can tell it's a dark romance, but I couldn't get like a gist of what the story is about, and this had me very intrigued. So I had to read like the reviews, and I saw like awesome reviews about this particular book, and it is part of a series. So it is in the Midnight Mayhem series, and it's book 1, and there's one other book in the series, and it's In Fury Lies Mischief. And I'm like, okay. And then I read the synopsis for that one as well, and I'm like, whew. I'm like, okay, Giselle, this sounds something like what you would like to read. All I know it is that, because even like when you read the reviews, it still doesn't give you like an idea of how the story goes. So I'm very intrigued. So your girl had to read that. And Sicko, it is a standalone, but listen, I got an idea about what this book is about. So basically, the heroine, she has a thing for her foster brother. He disappeared for a couple of years, and he came back being the vice president of an MC, and he came back no longer the, you know, like the rich bad boy type of guy. No, he came back dark. He came back with secrets and a lot of experiences. So which one I'm going to read first, I have no idea, but just knowing that it's going to be pretty dark and there might be elements of BDSM, your girl had to put this on her list. So going on to the next book, let me say right now that I have never read any book written by Amo Jones as well as Jennifer Armentrout. I have never read any of their books, so this is definitely going to be the first time that I'm reading books from these authors. And this book that I'm going to talk about next is written by Penelope Douglas, and I've never read any book by her. But you know what? I have been challenging myself this year to read different authors, because you know, sometimes you tend to, when you find an author and you like their style of writing, you like how, you know, their plots, you like their characters, you tend to stick with that author and just read all of their books. So I did that in the past because I'm like, I don't want to try another author and then I don't like the book and then we have to D and F. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I've been trying new authors a lot this year. So I want to read 57 by Penelope Douglas, and it follows Mishka and Ryan. So apparently when these individuals were in the 5th grade, teachers assumed, you know, because of their name, they were a girl or something like that. And besides that, they become pen pals, Mishka and Ryan. They become pen pals in the 5th grade, and throughout high school, they continue writing to each other. However, they had rules in that they would not look for each other on social media. And I think it follows them into adulthood or maybe late teens when Mishka, who's the guy, discovers a picture of Ryan online and things change and stuff becomes blurred. So honestly, I really want to read this. It seems like it's a new adult romance. It's probably set a lot in high school because you do see them growing up from what I got from the synopsis. So normally I don't do too much high school stuff, but I'm like, you know what? I saw it on Instagram. the cover looked interesting, and authors have been sharing on their Instagram and like just read about it. So again, if you have read this book, let me know your thoughts. I am so excited to read this book that I'm going to talk about. It is part of a series. I believe there are 3 books in the series, and book 1 is called Violent Delight, and it is book 1 in the White Monarch series. So the reason why I'm excited to read about it, it's because the plot is about a Mexican cartel. So you know, number 1, it's going to be dark. Number 2, it's going to be action-packed, because from what I gathered, there is betrayal, lies, secret. You can't trust anyone. Loyalty. What loyalty? You have no loyalty, honey. There is none. So I'm so excited to read this, and apparently there's this particular girl, Natalie, and she's the heroine. Natalie likes or is best friend with a particular guy. So Natalie, she grew up in this lifestyle, and she loves the power, she loves the money, the wealth, she loves everything with that goes with that lifestyle. She doesn't have an issue with it, and she's friends with Diego, and she always thought, like, you know, Diego is gonna be her happily ever after. They just, you know, they're just gonna be together. In comes another brother, or Diego's brother, Cristiano, and these 2 brothers are fighting over Natalie. Like, I've never read a mafia type romance where there's this conflict between 2 brothers. Yes, you have the brotherhood. Yes, you have betrayal, but like 2 brothers. But that is what I got from the synopsis anyway. I'm so excited to read this one. I have never read any book written by this author, so it's going to be the first time, and I hope I really like it. I hope there's a very intricate plot, and seeing that it is 3 books, that plot better be deep. Will it have wars? We'll see. I'll be excited if there's like a war within the cartel and there's this breakdown of hierarchy. Love it. On to the next book. This next book that I'm going to talk about, it's written by Goode, and it is part of the Mail Order Bride series. It is book 2. I have read like Mail Order Brides type of books, but I've never read one with a shifter, because normally with shifters, you know, they just mate with someone in their pack or someone that is close to their family. But for a shifter, a wolf shifter, to get a mail order bride, especially when it's like 9 days to the full moon. Like, if you're familiar with shifter romance, you know when there's a full moon, things get very heated. And this book follows Cassie and Eden. And Cassie, she has totally given up on love. She doesn't believe there's a happily ever after. She doesn't believe in true love or nothing like that. And Eden, he just needs to establish a mate bond with someone. So it's basically a marriage of convenience for both individuals. So Eden just needs to mate with someone, I guess, for the good of the pack, because, you know, with shifters and pack life. And yeah, but the thing is, Cassie doesn't know he's a shifter. So how does that work? So I'm really interested to see how this story goes, whether or not it's going to have a really deep plot. But I'm very interested from what I read of the synopsis. Again, it's nothing, I've never read anything like that. And also I've never read any book from this author. So quite interested to see how this book turns out. And again, if you have read this book, because it's not new, it's not a new release. I think it was released like back in 2017, so it's not a new book. And I'm sure some of you have read this, and if you haven't, I'll let you know if it's good, because this is right up my alley in terms of what I like. So this next book, I read book 1 back in December or last November, and it ended on a cliffhanger, and I swear I wanted to cry. So the book that I'm talking about is My Midnight Moonlight Valentine, written by McAvoy. It is a slow burn #1. Basically, it follows Rella and Theseus, and They meet in this park while Bwwm went out hunting. She's a newly turned vampire. She meets this other vampire, which is Theseus, and he lost his memory, and she decides, you know what, I don't know any other vampires, and she's a new vampire. She's very young. She decides, okay, I will try to help you. And they go on this journey trying to figure out what happened to his memory, only to discover that something is also wrong with her memory. Her memories are so clean cut that she never experienced any trauma, anything. It's like she had this wonderful upbringing before turning into a vampire. But then she discovers that she's a witch. On top of that, because she's turned into a vampire, it's natural to have some powers from your previous life as a witch, but not the amount that she has and not what she can do. And then, like, to the end of the book, they think she did something to erase both of their memories. I'm like, oh my god, I needed book 2. So book 2 was released in March 31st of this year, 2021. Book 2 is my Sunrise Paramore. And because book 1 was like a slow burn, you know, they messed around, they didn't like, you know, connect, right? They didn't really connect. I'm hoping that they connect in book 2. The journey continues and it picks up where it ended. So I'm going to assume that they're going to find out what happened to their memories. Bwwm is causing a ripple effect in certain arrangements that is established between the witches and the vampires. So I'm like, ooh, you girl had to read that. So I saw this book on my Instas, Seizing Lost. I'm like, ooh. She's like, you should probably read that. So I go to add it to my Goodreads to read list, only to discover that it's book 9. I'm like, Giselle, book 9? I'm like, where you was all the time? I'm like, you know, get interested in this book when it reached book 9? So I'm like, okay. So I go to book. So I'm still planning to read it anyhow, thinking it could probably be read as a standalone, only to be warned, no. It is suggested that the series be read in chronological order because each event is built upon the last one. So you have to read book 1 before you can read book 2, and so on and so on and so on. I'm like, oh. So in order to read one book that I wanted to read, I have to read from book 1. And book 1, and it is called Wrath, and it is book 1 in the Deadliest Sin series, written by Gywn McNamee. It is basically like a mafia organized crime type of book, exactly up my alley, you know, dark again, just, you know, dark romances just do it for me. However, I will be posting videos of books other than dark romance, just letting you know by now, letting you know that, yeah, so I want to read this book because I want to read book 9, but in order to read book 9, I had to start at book 1. So we'll be starting at book 1, and hopefully by, I don't know, August, I'll reach book 9, because I can't sit down and read all the books, you know, within 1 month. I have to, you know, mix up some things. So first time I'm reading a book by this author as well. I've never read any book written by Gywn McNamee. So, but the Deadliest Sin look quite interesting. And book 1, I think, I don't know the name of the characters, but from what I got from the synopsis, basically, the heroine was kidnapped by somebody, and the hero, he's going to commit some deadly sins, maybe to get her back. That is what I'm getting from the synopsis, but we'll see how that goes. And again, it's named Wrath, so he is going to release Havoc on Chicago. So I still want to read this book that I'm going to talk about next. It's written by Victoria Ashley. It is Slade, which is book 1 in the Walk of Shame series. There are 6 books in the series, but I want to read book 1. And obviously if I like book 1, I'm going to read book 2. So the first sentence in the synopsis says, my name is Slade and I'm an effing sex addict. The synopsis sounds quite interesting, and I guess from the series Walk of Shame, I guess all these guys have some serious addictions. And let me tell you, the author did give you a warning at the bottom of the synopsis. Basically, these guys are filthy, they are dirty, and if you don't like it, you shouldn't read it. That is what I'm getting from the synopsis. I guess Slade, he has an addiction issue, and let's see if the heroine can cure that addiction or handle that addiction. I'm ready to start. I am so ready to start reading this book. On Instagram, Bookstagram, whatever gram you want to call it, saw this book. So it is called Rejected, and it's written by Jaymin Eve, part of the Shadow Beast Shifters. So you don't know, it's a shifter story, it's a paranormal, and somebody's going to be rejected. So the heroine, apparently her father tried to kill the alpha. Like, you don't kill the alpha. How could you kill the alpha, right? You don't do that. Because of that, she becomes like tortured by the rest of the pack. She becomes an outcast. At a point, she's like, I can't take it any longer, and she decides to run away. However, she's dragged back by one of the alpha's son right before her first shift. And at your first shift, your true mate is revealed, and that's like a really big thing in the shifter community. It's a really big thing. However, when she shifts and she looks upon her true mate, she's rejected. And you don't ever reject your mate. You don't ever reject your soulmate, and she's rejected. So I want to see what happens, because again, she was their punching bag. They would do whatever they wanted to her because she was an outcast because of what her dad did. There's 4 books in this series. So it is, book 1 is Rejected, book 2 is Reclaimed, book 3 it's Reborn, and book 4 is Deserted. Like, I want to read it. Yeah. I've never read a book by Jaymin Eve. This is going to be the first time, and I'm so excited that it is a fantasy paranormal shifter book. Last up, it's The Tie That Binds, written by Catharina, Maura. It is a standalone book, and it is a marriage of convenience. It follows Alyssa and Daniel. So Alyssa has to marry Daniel in order to maintain the family business. Otherwise, she can lose it. On her father's deathbed, he requests that she marries Daniel. I don't know if they had like any history together. That I'm just saying what I got from the synopsis. I guess they got married because it is a business arrangement. It wasn't meant to be anything else. But I'm sure if you're married to someone, feelings must get involved. You're going to be interacting with this person. You're going to see them on a regular basis. So I'm assuming things evolve from a business arrangement. So sometimes with all the heavy stuff that I have on this list, because I have a lot of dark romances and fantasy, just having this contemporary romance in the mix, this marriage of convenience in the mix, I think it's just going to, be a nice breather in between all those heavy books. So I really want to read this book. I have read Forever After All by this author, written by this author, and I loved it. Like, I gave that book 5 stars, and it wasn't even a dark romance. Like, imagine that. So that brings me to the end of my video. Let me know, have you read any of these books that I've mentioned? Some of them are a bit old, from 2017, and some of them were released this year. So let me know in the comment section down below if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you read it, if you have not read it like me, if you recommend it. Let me know in the comment section down below. I look forward to reading all your comments that you post, so you know what to do. And you know what to do, right? Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, like my video, leave a comment down below, and hit that notification bell so you know every time I post a video. Look out until I post another one.